The origin and mythos of Ymir. According to Norse mythology, Ymir is the first being that ever existed. The ice of Niflheim and the heat of Muspelheim combined to generate drops of water, which eventually grew into the form of a giant and became his body. Many believe that he was the progenitor of all ice giants. According to the Norse creation narrative, his hermaphroditic body gave rise to beings that would go on to birth children for an infinite number of generations. The giant's voyage came to a tragic end, but because he is a malicious person, no one can feel sorry for him. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new video on the channel. Today, we are going to talk about the origin and mythos of Ymir. Before we get started with the video, don't forget to smash the like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Now let's get started. Origins. The Norse creation myth begins the same way as many other accounts of the beginning of the world do. Nothing existed when we first started looking for it. There was no beach, ocean, or wave to be found. There was no heaven, and there was no earth. Niflheim, on the other hand, came into existence a very long time before the earth. It was home to a spring that was the source of 12 different rivers. Muspel was located in the southern section of the land, and it was an extremely hot region that was protected by a giant named Surt, who carried a fiery sword. There was a place called Ginnungagap in the north. The rivers froze over, and ice blanketed everything else in this region. Because the warm air from Muspel was able to reach the chilly air of Ginnungagap, the ice began to thaw and drip as a result. The drips became more concentrated and started to take on the appearance of a human being. It was Ymir, the progenitor of all frost giants, who was responsible for their construction. The ice continued to flow down until it eventually acquired the form of a cow. Her name was Autumnlove, and she was the one who produced the 4 rivers of milk that Ymir drank from it. Ymir drank from all of them. Licking the salty stones that were covered with rime helped the cow preserve her health, and she did this by licking the stones that were all around her. According to the story, as the days passed, Autumnlove continued to lick away at the stones, and over time, the stones began to take on the form of a man. On the very first day of the experiment, it was discovered what the man's hair looked like. The following day, his entire head could be seen poking out from between the stones. On the third day, he was located in his entirety and emerged from among the stones after having been hidden there. Beri was his name, and in the end, he produced a son who went by the name of Bor and who proposed marriage to the daughter of a giant named Bestla. Bor was named after Beri. Bor was given his name in honor of Beri. They also gave birth to 2 daughters named Vi and Vili, as well as a son named Odin. Through the course of their lives, the brothers would be known collectively as the rulers of heaven and earth, and Odin would go on to earn a reputation as one of the most powerful gods. Legends and stories. It is intriguing that Ymir was created, but much more so is the fact that he was also responsible for the creation of the world, but not in the way that one might expect it. Ymir ultimately evolved into a being dedicated to evil. After getting into a fight with the ice giant, Bor's 3 sons were ultimately obliged to put their father's assassination plan into action. Because of the volume of blood that was expelled from his body, all of the frost giants perished in the water, and the sole survivor was only able to keep himself and his family alive by constructing an ark. The body of the giant was brought by Odin and his brothers all the way to the heart of Ginnungagap, where they used it to create the earth out of his body. His blood turned into the ocean, and his bones turned into the crags and boulders in the landscape. His hair turned into the forest around him. His head was changed into the night sky, while his brothers added sparks and molten rock from Muspel to make the stars. His skull was then transformed into the sky. The brains of Ymir were hurled into the air, where they condensed into clouds. Because the globe was level, they were able to use Ymir's eyelashes to block off portions of the planet where they desired to keep the giants confined. Odin and his brothers discovered 2 logs on the coast of the ocean and fashioned them into people. One of the brothers gave the humans life and the ability to breathe, while the other gave them the ability to move and be conscious. The youngest brother was the one who gave those faces, speech, hearing, and sight. This event marked the start of the human race. Every generation that was to come after them could be traced back to these 2 individuals. During the process of creating the heavens, Odin and his brothers decided not to illuminate them. One of the people whose descendants were formed by combining the two sets of DNA from the logs had 2 children. These 2 little ones were so beautiful that their father decided to honor them by naming them after the sun and the moon. It was stated that the gods were envious of the children, and when their father behaved in a way that suggested he was not worthy of them, the gods saw this as a sign to kidnap the children and raise them in the heavens. Sol was given the assignment to pilot a chariot that would transport the sun through the sky. In the far north, she had to drive so quickly because a massive wolf was chasing after her. Moon follows his sister along the same route across the sky as she does, although he is not in as much of a hurry as she is. The brothers did take steps to ensure that there was a connection between heaven and earth while they were in the process of creating their world. This connection was established through the fabrication of a bridge. A rainbow's function is to provide a passageway between 2 distinct realms. This is its raison d'etre. The belief that the gods were responsible for its creation is meant to be communicated through the object's pristine appearance and brilliant colors. The people of Muspel are told that if they try to ascend the rainbow in order to get to heaven, the rainbow will break apart into many parts. This is according to local folklore. Family. During his lifetime, Ymir did not enter into a traditional marriage or have children in the traditional sense of the phrase. On the other side, his myth states that even while he was sleeping, he would break out in a cold sweat. Because of his profuse perspiration, 2 people, a male and a female, emerged from his arms. Both of them were humans. The union of his limbs resulted in the birth of a child with 6 distinct heads. Even though Ymir was an enormous monster, his very presence is at least somewhat to blame for the progress that has been made by humanity. This occurred as a result of his body being turned into the earth and the humans that evolved from the trees that grew on the earth. Symbology. Ymir is typically seen with his cow, which is generally considered to be his primary symbol. This appears in the majority of portrayals of him. He relied on the cow, which was both a buddy and a comrade, to provide for all of his nutritional requirements. Other well-known artistic tributes to Ymir picture him involved in war with his 3 brothers, a conflict that would ultimately result in the death of Ymir, but in the creation of the earth. Other well-known artistic tributes to Ymir depict him engaged in combat with his 3 brothers. Those who are familiar with the story of Ymir and the creation are frequently in a position to derive important lessons for living from it. It has been postulated that his death is a metaphor for the taming of the wild and the relentless drive that dwells inside people, both of which are necessary for the production of anything novel. This idea has been supported by a number of studies. His death is also a metaphor for the change of something ugly and chaotic into something wonderful through the process of reinvention and reformation, which is symbolized by the metaphor of his dying. That's the end of the video. I hope you liked it. If you did, let me know by giving it a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you next time.